And we are live. So welcome to this latest version of our EMBA office hours. Hi, Balaji.
Yes, hi, Eric.
Welcome. These office hours are sponsored, as always, by Google Hangout, and we're still waiting for those sponsorship dollars to roll in. And this, I believe, today is August 25th, 2015. And today we have Balaji, Chris, Mitch, DK, and I think Yi is going to join us at some point. But why don't we go ahead and get started?
He just sent me a text saying that he can't get in, so
well, I sent the link I sent you guys that worked. Maybe you can try to resend him that link.
Okay.
And if it worked for you guys, it should work for him, I think, right? I just sent that to him. So if that doesn't work, he must be having some technical problems.
Okay.
So should we start with Markstrat questions? And I was getting to the point where you may want to be guarded in what you ask.
Okay.
Although, to be honest with you, I'm not sure it'd be that much different if folks know what you're doing, you know. At this point, it's probably pretty easy to predict what some of the teams might be doing. But go ahead, any questions that you wouldn't mind having broadcast? No? Balaji?
I think we are okay this round. We got some strategy, and we are just going to follow what we discussed last week.
Okay. Do you want to ask anything about Markstrat then, or not at this point?
Not at this point.
Okay. How about Chris? Any Markstrat questions?
All right.
Not yet. I'm waiting for there's my beloved team leader.
Hey.
Welcome,
what's up, guys?
You're welcome, son. We're just going through, see if anybody has any questions about Markstrat. So DK, I know he has some questions he wants to do offline. Mitch, Yi, any questions about Markstrat?
I'm looking at, so the presentation is due next time we meet, either Friday or Saturday.
Yes.
And,
what happened is the presentations will be on Saturday.
Okay, and the paper will be due.
The paper is due
after
1 week later after that. So
1 week later after that. Okay.
I believe that's the last class is September 12th, I believe, and then it would be due the 19th.
Okay.
So you should look at the presentation as a, initial, I guess, baseline for the paper. So I would do the presentation in such a way that it matches the structure of the paper. And based on the feedback you get from me and from the other participants, you can make appropriate changes. So.
Okay.
Any questions about the presentation itself?
Would you be able to send any copies of the paper of what it looks like, some of your best ones in the past, like you did the presentations?
Well, actually, I passed around the papers.
It was just some. Yeah, we just did some quick reads of them. No, I didn't know if you had any.
I can't really send any of the papers due to student confidentiality issues. But so I brought them to class. But you're welcome to contact any of the students from last year's class to see if they wanted to share. You're welcome to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable doing that without their permission. But so actually, I showed the papers. I never showed any presentations. There might be, if you go back on the archives, if you guys have access to last year's class, they were obviously probably recorded. And so Rich or Lisa should be able to, perhaps share that. Any specific questions about either the paper or I passed out an instruction sheet, which I just also posted on the Compass page about those documents. Any questions about those things? No?
I had missed class, so I Didn't get a copy of that, but I
Well, it's
assume.
posted on Compass. If you go to Compass, you can
Okay.
access that.
Okay. Does it kind of give format of what you want included? Like
Yeah.
basic?
The
Okay.
basic format. Basic format. So you'll have about 15 minutes or so for the presentations, and we'll do them on Saturday.
Did you post something new, Eric, or was this based off your Markstrat grading one-page sheet that you sent out early in the module?
Yeah, that's what it is. Just that one-page sheet. Yeah, that's it. That's what should be posted as well. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So there's lots of leeway, you know. So you have a lot of leeway to take it different ways. Okay, so there's no Markstrat questions. That's the first. Let me just say, in terms of Markstrat, we're now down to 3 rounds of decisions. So we'll have, let me pull up my calendar, decision due tomorrow, round 5 on the 26th, then round 6 on the 2nd of September, and then round 7 on the 9th of September, and that will give you a few days to absorb the final results and prepare for your presentation 3 days later, which is a luxury that usually most teams don't have. They usually have a tighter schedule. We're often running it the day before sometimes, even. So that's our schedule that we have. The presentation format is we always go from the last place team in reverse order to the first place team. So you know your presentation order, which will be the inverse of the final stock price index performance. So not everybody has to present. You could have one person present. The grade is shared by the entire team. That's up to you. Usually, I found prior classes, they like to get many people involved in the presentation. That's fine as well. Or a subset is fine. Just bear in mind that a transition time between one presenter and the other, of course. The few key things to keep in mind as you approach the final round, round 7, usually most teams don't do any R&D. You could do it, of course, if you wanted to, but usually the end strategy, round 7, is to put all the resources into Salesforce or a commercial team, typically. And I would also recommend buying some research reports, because having that research reports will help you prepare your paper. You'll have more data to enhance the paper. So I wouldn't cut out the research entirely that final round. So we're running at a point where kind of this, if you're going to do any R&D and develop a new product, this is the time to do it.
Okay.
This round and next round, if you have that in your agenda. So we have one Vodite launched already. I would imagine more will be coming. And so I think the big decision facing firms is, at this point, will they launch a Vodite? And what will that look like? So we'll still see. The good news about this particular industry, everyone's in the game. Everybody has a positive stock price index above where they started. And the gap between the top and bottom teams is easily transcended. So the last place team, which I think now is Team T, could certainly end up in first place. Which makes the game more exciting. By this time, there's often a team that is last place. So that's just my Markstrat, agenda, what I wanted to say. Everyone seems to be understanding how the game is working. We don't seem to have any problems with the interface, which is good.
Yeah.
And by now, you've handled that several rounds now, so you know how that works, which is good. So are there any other Markstrat questions before we move on to other topics of the course? Good. Are you guys enjoying Markstrat so far?
It is.
Okay. What was the most surprising thing that you found so far with the Markstrat simulation?
So, yeah, one thing that we find is, for example, for our team, we strategize one way, but then by the time the round completes, some of the strategies that we came up with, we seem to be needing to change it again based on how other teams perform. So which means everybody is thinking along the same lines. The flow of thought seems to be similar among the teams.
So you're finding a need to improvise, it sounds like.
Yes.
Anybody else want to share anything they found surprising, interesting about Markstrat?
It's very stressful.
Stressful. In which way?
You're under a lot of pressure to make the right decision. Okay. And if those numbers not high enough and you see the competition, it's puts a lot of pressure on you. Okay. You understand how the product management team is, in the real world it's probably more stressful. So.
Yeah, that's why I became a professor. That's why.
Yeah.
I'm in Yee's group, and we're used to, in my business now, if you go a little high on price or a little low or inventory, you got time to change and be responsive to the market. Here, it's, as Yee said, the pressure's on because you're one and done. You go too high, too low, too little, too much, too whatever. You can't react. You lose a whole year. So that's tough.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, the good news is that the highest anybody could have picked for Markstrat would be half their grade, and performance only counts for 40% of that half. So it's 40 times 50. So at best, it's 1/5 of anyone's total grade for one course, for one program in your life, right? So
that's what we say in our group. Yeah, the world needs ditch diggers too on this one.
Yeah, it's not the grade that it's more of the competition.
Okay.
You don't want to be losing to to the other teams.
So some peer pressure.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe some scores to be settled from prior, right? Prior classes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that and the bragging rights.
Sure.
Those are important.
Yeah, that's true. So, are there questions about other aspects of the course? Anything we've talked about, or things that we haven't talked about? I think Chris has some questions about 3D printing.
Oh, that was awesome. The 3D printing was really blows.
Good. I'm glad you liked it.
I mean, so far I have not seen one in operation. I just watched some videos and read about it, but seeing it in person and seeing it operating, it's amazing how it works. Because I personally do a lot of control systems design and programming.
I got one behind me. If you look back here, that contraption above my filing cabinet is another 3D printer.
Mm-hmm.
I built that about 3 years ago. I built that. It's called a printer bot, which you can get for about $500. And, that's very similar performance to the one I brought to class, but a much cheaper product. So they're very accessible money-wise. Chris, did you have some questions, Chris, about 3D printing? Or?
Yeah, two. One, you mentioned about Boeing using this for parts, and I heard that the U.S. Army and stuff's using this in outsources, that the Navy's starting to use it. Can you really get the metals strong enough to do something like the Navy's doing to cut down on their parts out in boats, ships out at sea, and to be exact enough? To me, that's mind-boggling.
Oh yeah, you can. Not with the printer I brought to class, but higher-end printers. So those 3D printing is right now about 40% of 3D printing assets are used for final manufacturing right now. So another example was we were doing having some conversations with Deloitte. Deloitte Consulting is is into 3D printing as well. They have a 3D printer in their location downtown Chicago, and they're working for they're basically a middleman for another 3D printing company called 3D Systems out in, so there's two big 3D printing companies, Stratasys, which owns the MakerBot that I brought to class, they're in Minnesota, and then there's a company called 3D Systems, which is down in the Carolinas. And they have an arrangement with Deloitte, and Deloitte is basically finding business applications and solution selling their 3D printers. So one of the stories that Deloitte's talking about is talking with ExxonMobil for their offshore oil rigs, and they find when they're drilling for oil offshore and a part breaks, every day that thing's not drilling, you're losing $1 million worth of production capacity. And so the idea of bringing these metal printers either right on the rig or close onshore, that as a part broke, it could be printed on demand. And so imagine that, so even if the printer costs $500,000, it would more than pay for itself for the first thing that I made, right? So those are big printers, and what they're doing is taking a soft metal and hardening up the laser. Again, we're still at the early stages of this, where traditional manufacturing is still cheaper for large quantities, but we're finding 3D printing works well for smaller batch production or customization of things. NASA's another one working with 3D printing on the space station. You may have heard earlier this year they 3D printed a wrench in space where an astronaut needed to tighten a bolt, and he just printed out the wrench to do that. So the idea basically there is, it's not the fact that you can make special parts, but that you can make your inventory digital. You don't have to necessarily carry all those parts in a toolbox. You just have the digital file, and you print it as needed. It's kind of a cool application. Did you have another question about 3D printing?
You talked about the threadless case a little bit. I don't know if I put it in the same thing. Do you see the material that you can put in 3D printers to make clothes and T-shirts that are that flexible?
Yeah, there's some flexible filaments. 3D printing is being used to make clothing. It's not quite the same as cotton material, but there are softer filaments that are printed. So that's a big growth area. Is the clothing area as well. So the idea that you would walk into a Gap store and you would have your body scanned, and then the clothes printed on demand, customized for your body, is one scenario that could be happening in a few years. A prediction I just saw today is that the explosion of 3D printing is probably still about 5 years away. Or 2020 is sort of the forecast. If you look at the history of the fusion of innovations, like the radio took about 20 years to become mainstream. The television took about 17 years. Mainstream, yeah. And the desktop 3D printer, the desktop version, that just happened about 5 years ago, and it's still touching 0.01% of the population. So if the past is any predictor of the future, we're looking at another at least 5 years before we see sort of mass adoption, which to me means there's lots of opportunities, right? Lots of opportunities out there.
Yeah, I have seen that growing in like the consumer goods with like Motorola and places, because those are smaller products, they can do it. And the big impact I see is in the automobile industry as the printer size grows and everyone can afford it.
Yeah, and I predict in the future we'll see, just like if you buy a television set, I bought a new TV, and there's no manual, because the manual now it's in the TV, right? Or you can download it. That would say the same thing for parts. So you maybe you don't even get a remote control. Print out. When you have 4 or 5 options, you print out the control that you want, or you go to Walmart and you stop by the 3D printing kiosk and you pick up the, you know, you customize, maybe even customize it to your hand size. Those sort of things could be happening. So yeah, so I think we're really at the early stages of a pretty dramatic revolution that changes almost the whole, you know, the whole production process, the way things are produced, distributed, you know, marketed. Some pretty big implications here. So that's what we're trying to do in our lab, is to get a toehold in that domain. So if you guys are ever down in Champaign, please let me know. I'm happy to give a tour of the lab and the stuff we're doing. Other questions beyond 3D printing?
Now, one question I have with your 3D lab in Champaign.
Yeah.
Are you just setting up a lab with the products directly available in the market, or are you doing any development also?
Yeah, we do just about everything. So, and actually, you know, we have a lot of people who come in and do stuff. So we have students coming in printing things they need for class or for their own projects. We had one of my former students is working on a new game, a board game, and he's printing all the pieces for that in the lab. We do a lot of custom work. We're producing. The math department asked us to print out scans of one of their buildings. So we're a machine shop. Oftentimes, we're producing things for clients.
Mm-hmm.
We don't actually make a lot of things ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of, we're not engaged in. Our mission isn't to make new products; it's to provide this technology access to it.
Yes.
So we're basically running the lab, letting people come in and do things with it. We're giving talks, issuing certificates in education, doing some research, and doing work for clients. So we're not actually creating any new products ourselves, other than the stuff that we kind of print for display. So we're trying to make everybody else rich, but not us. I'm not sure if that.
Yeah, but it is really interesting to see, that you can even print very complex geometrical shapes and structures. Some of the examples that you showed in that website, looking at it, it's extremely it's difficult to imagine that you could just print such shapes or structures with this type of printers.
Yeah, I see. Sometimes it's hard to imagine. There are things that you can make with 3D printing that you can't make any other way, right? That can only be 3D printed. So it's really fascinating technology. You see it and say, wow, I actually saw it done, but I can't believe it actually did it. So come on down. We can do all sorts of stuff. We can try. It's still, again, early technology, so not everything works. Not everything works. It's going to be a lot better. They get fast. Materials are going to explode in the next couple of years. Every week there's a new material that can be printed. So it's really a fast-moving area. Other questions you guys have? Any things we covered? What about product placement, promotion? We'll be talking about pricing and the Radiohead case. Any questions about that? Next class, the Radiohead case or the discussion of pricing?
I saw that you have uploaded a lot of articles, articles written by you on Compass.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I uploaded some of my academic papers, a few, the things I thought was relevant for the class. Mm-hmm. They're not really organized, and I try to give them headings that made sense. And they're not really organized in any sort of logical manner, just things that I thought relate to the class.
Yes.
So maybe there'd be some use. That's the thing that we do besides teach. We're doing academic research that once in a while people actually pay attention to, but not usually. Usually it's a pretty small audience. Other questions? You guys are pretty quiet today. Sorry, someone's calling me. Other questions? No? Are we done early? I think there's probably some offline questions. I know DK wants to talk offline.
DK, don't be shy around us. Come on.
Yeah.
Share
Share.
strategy.
Yeah.
Come
Share
on,
your
we're your
strategy.
classmates, DK. Don't hold out.
That's right, DK. Share your strategy. Please feel free to.
Keep it with us. We won't tell the next class.
I was going to, but he just mentioned it's pure peer pressure, so I cannot.
I think he's been told not to under fear of death.
It's the benefit for our team, right?
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
All right,
Thank
guys. I guess I'll probably end it. Unless I'm happy to answer more questions, but there don't seem to be many.
Yep.
Anybody want to talk offline besides DK?
I'm great. Thank you.
I'm good.
All right, DK. So why don't I'll shoot you, send you an email with a number to call.
Okay.
You can call me.
Yep.
Okay, guys. Chris, looks like you're in a hotel room. Is that a hotel room?
Yes, down in Center City, Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Okay. How's the weather?
Great place.
Oh, it's beautiful. Just
Good.
yeah, try to get my visits up here in the spring, summer, fall, so I don't have to come back here in January.
That's a good strategy. Well, enjoy your time there. I'm here in lovely Champaign.
So, Eric, how much time do you need if we're going to come down to Champaign? Say,
Yeah.
do you need a couple days? No, obviously it can't be around your classwork and stuff, but to go down and see that 3D lab, we've seen that when we were down on immersion weekend. It's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically not much notice at all. I think the main thing would be to come down when the lab is open. So right now we're still finalizing our schedule in terms of our student workers, what our exact hours will be. But they should be posted by the next week. So just go to our website, makerlab.illinois.edu. You can see the hours listed on the right-hand side, and then you can go ahead and just come on down, and that way you can see the operations, you can talk to the gurus, and then let me know. Then I'll pop in, but you're welcome to come on down. Or if you guys want to organize something too, we could always do something more organized if you wanted to talk to your classmates. And for example, we offer a 3D printing certification. And normally that happens over the course of several days. But we could do something perhaps where if we had advance notice, it's 4 separate courses at 90 minutes each. At the end, you get a certificate of digital, 3D printing digital making certificate. So it would be a total of basically 6 hours, be a full day. It's a pretty cheap price. I think we're charging now $15 a course, so it'd be $60, which is probably a little bit cheaper than the rate you're paying for the EMBA. So $60, and you'd come down and you end up with a certificate in digital making. We have to be able to have some mass to be able to do that. At least probably 8 people. Ideal is about 10 people. So if you guys want to do that, or if your company, we do things for companies as well. We host. We also do birthday parties. We've done those. So if you guys just want to come down for a certificate, maybe talk to your classmates, pass a list around, and we could set something up. If that, and the cool thing there is, you would actually learn not just how to download stuff, but actually create your own products. And so you can make. So my wife just said today. She said, "Could you make a door stop with some certain dimensions?" So you could do those sort of things. So whenever your wife said, "Could you, do this?" You have a way to do it without leaving your house.
So this training teaches you how to use the software to design whatever you want?
Yeah, there's 4 courses, and these workshops are sponsored by Autodesk. I'm going to make sure I give Autodesk a plug. So we have first one's basic 3D printing. We show you how a 3D printer works. You guys have seen some of that already. We talk about how to take a digital file, prepare it for printing. We talk about the filament, some safety issues, and basically give you a chance to print an object. Then the next class is basic 3D design. We show a basic program, Tinkercad, which has basically geometric shapes that you download and alter. And usually we have people take those key rings that I passed out and make their own key ring. So take that Illinois outline and put your name on it, whatever you want to put on it. And so you learn basic design. The third one is advanced design, which I think we're going with now either Autodesk Inventor or Autodesk Fusion 360. They want us to move to this other 360, but we're having some debate about that. And then the fourth one is 3D scanning, where you learn how to scan and prepare a scan file. And so that would give you all the tools you need to do some basic modeling and printing on your own. So that can be all learned in about 6 hours. And those are taught in the lab. And then we give a authentic certificate that I sign at the end. It's a nice thing to have on your resume, I think, as well. We'll hopefully make those courses online at some point, but now they're just physical, face-to-face.
So is the 3D scanning basically where you have like some sort of portable scanner that you can scan an object and it imports into the software that will then print it out?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I brought the scanner last class, where we had some scanning. We scanned a few people. We scanned the class couple. Carlos and Glenda got scanned as a unit.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and so I'm gonna try to print that out. There was a hole in Glenda, so I'm not sure how it's gonna work. She has a big hole on the side of her arm. So basically, yeah, the 3D scanner. We take a scanner and we show you how to handheld scanner that's attached to an iPad, and then showing how to download that file and correct it if it needs correcting, and then print it out. And so,
how large of objects can you print in the lab?
As large as you want. I mean, we have an Eiffel Tower that's about, I think 620 millimeters high. So good. What is that? A good 3 feet high almost. That's different parts that are put together. So if you're attaching separate parts, gluing them together, attaching them together, you can print, as much as you want. The printers we have now, a single print, the capacity is about 420 cubic inches, about the size of a small loaf of bread. But to be honest with you, really print anything that big because it takes so long. So usually the things we're printing are more, something you could hold in your hand, typically.
Okay. Playing
with the graphics, right? But yeah, so if you guys want to come on down, we can talk about that, next class, see what happens. Okay, guys, thanks for joining me. Enjoy your time away from class. I'll do this again this time next week, and then talk to DK and answer his Markstrat questions. Good luck with the simulation. I look forward to seeing the next round of decisions tomorrow night.
Sounds good.
Okay, good night, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.